The stakes are high for all of the candidates who will appear in the theater right behind us tomorrow night, but they are especially high for Joe Biden. Why? The former vice president had a substantial lead here, but he's dropped in recent polls, notably among the state's black voters, who make up about 60% of the Democrats that vote here. So we visited with a number of black voters over the weekend, as well as campaign organizers and veteran volunteers. They told us this campaign is as competitive as ever.
Cut your TVs off and stay focused.
Bernie Scott is a force in South Carolina politics.
We got a lot of work to do.
Whether she's organizing volunteers at her home,
I'm out here talking to people about the issues.
greeting people door to door,
All right, let's get it up in here for Joe Biden.
or adding emphasis through a bullhorn on a Joe Biden campaign bus. Her voice is a trusted one in the Palmetto State. When we arrived to meet her last Friday, we were greeted by the group she founded more than 30 years ago. They are known as the Reckoning Crew.
Why did you call it the Reckoning Crew?
Because if you don't do what's right by the people, you have to reckon with us.
99.
Whoa!
The group of now mostly senior citizen organizers initially endorsed Senator Kamala Harris. After she suspended her campaign, the Reckoning Crew made headlines for backing Joe Biden.
What is it about Joe Biden that you feel a personal connection to?
Because our country is so far back now. Till Joe Biden worked 8 years with Barack Obama. We need somebody who can hit the ground running.
The former vice president had a formidable lead in South Carolina, but according to a new CBS News Battleground Tracker poll, his support among the state's black voters fell from 54% in November to 35%.
Are you concerned about what's going to happen to your candidate of choice in South Carolina?
No, not really.
Why?
Because all we can do as a Reckoning Crew is take the message to the people. And if a train is coming down the track, and I tell you to get off the track, and you don't move, I can feel good knowing I told you.
Joe Biden's drop in the polls offers his Democratic rivals greater expectations for the next primary.
But the three of you are here to say we have a different story.
We went to the University of South Carolina in Columbia to meet with young organizers pulling for Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, and Pete Buttigieg.
So I'm very fascinated because your full name is what?
Walter A. Clyburn Reed.
Clyburn, ding, 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 ding. We
Yes,
all know
ma'am.
the Clyburn name.
Yes, ma'am.
So your grandfather, Congressman Clyburn, has been on record as saying that Mayor Pete's sexual orientation will be a problem for some voters. He said he's not necessarily talking about himself,
Yes,
but he
ma'am.
said, but many voters in South Carolina, black voters in particular,
Yes, ma'am.
that would be a problem.
He was referring to his generation in particular. He understands that our nation is progressing, and he also understands how much that community has a positive effect on not only American society, but eventually American politics.
I want to say this about you, Alex. I so admire you because you're 16 and you can't even vote in this election yet. At 16, I was just hoping, please, somebody ask me to the prom. What is it about politics that fascinates you?
As I grew up, I realized that politics is going to affect me and everybody else. And so when I was witnessing the 2016 election, that's when I really found out that it matters who you vote for.
You settled on Bernie Sanders. Why?
He's a candidate who has fought for the civil rights movement as far as policies like Medicare for all, getting money out of politics, and ending the overseas wars, because that's what I would run on if I could run.
Do you think the stakes are higher this time, Zainab?
I think they are because, the last 4 years, so many people have been afraid of where this country is headed. And I think, Elizabeth Warren says herself, this is the fight of our lives.
Walter, we had talked before about how people view voters of color, that it's a monolithic group.
Yes, ma'am.
And when you hear that, what do you think?
That is very untrue. We all have different viewpoints, and in this election in particular, we have a lot of candidates who have a lot to offer.
In the state capitol, we talked with voters at a family fun run.
Have you narrowed it down?
I'm down to 2.
Who seem to agree the race for the Democratic nomination in South Carolina remains wide open.
We still have more time. I still have more time to change my mind. I'm still researching, and So we'll see.
So will the debates matter to you?
They do.
They
They matter a lot.
They do.
Yeah,
How
because you
so?
can't retract what you said in front of millions of watchers. How are you appealing to the African American voters?
Yeah.
And so
I
that's
keep
a
hearing
huge
that.
part of the voter. The voters is that
In this
African
community, I
American,
hear
especially in
that.
this community.
It's like 60%
Yeah.
black. they were
So
saying.
that's important. I need to know.
She needs to know. Walter, who you saw in that piece, is trying to convince his grandfather, Congressman Jim Clyburn, to back Mayor Pete Buttigieg, who young Walter is supporting. But the congressman told us he plans to announce his endorsement on Wednesday after the debate and ahead of the primary, although it's being widely reported today that he is expected to endorse Vice President Joe Biden. We shall see. And 16-year-old Alex told us he's interested in running for office one day. He's 16. He said he can run for Congress when he's 25. And something tells me you have not heard the last of Alex. They
I got
were
the
all
sense he was.
knockout
I got
young
the sense he
people.
was ready to go now, Gayle.
I think he might have been running
He really-
already. He's got
he-
the camera presence.
He really is. Yes, he is ready to go. It's true.
Now, Gayle, those women, the Reckoning crew, what do they think of that 19% drop in support for Joe Biden in the state among black voters?
You know, I think it's what Bernice said. Look, all you can do is give them the message and let them decide for themselves. They are concerned, but they said they're not worried. They are concerned, and I have to say they're a little worried, but they think at the end of the day, Joe Biden will pull it out in South Carolina. But even a close lead for him, a close victory for him, is not considered a good sign.
Yeah. I love that name, Reckoning Crew, though. That's just a great name.
I do too.
They think the train is coming. All right, Gayle, thank you very much.
Yeah.
We'll check in with you later.
See you guys.